All right, we are live. What's up, folks? Welcome back to the channel. It's been a while. I had a little stream a couple weeks ago, but I was actually looking at my notes, and it had been since May 20th, prior to 2 weeks ago. We had a big hiatus, just been catching up on things. It's been nice, but we're ready to get the show back on the road and get things going. Thanks for everybody hanging out with us tonight. We are going to be giving away a $25 Baitworks gift card towards the end of the stream, so stay on here for that. And I expect there would be some new faces in here tonight. So the way this works is, if you haven't been on here, there's a comment section. If you've subscribed to the YouTube channel, you can leave comments and ask questions and stuff, and we encourage everybody to do that. That's probably one of the coolest things about this type of format is you get to ask the guests questions and get feedback and leave comments, and it's a good time. So Randy, welcome to the show, and thanks for taking time out of your evening to hang out with us and talk a little bit of fishing.
Well, thank you, sir. Appreciate it, Gabe.
Yeah,
glad to do it.
Definitely. So let's start out with some background. You currently live in Wappello, or still Poplar Bluff, or where you at now?
Well, I guess I'm in no man's land here. I have a Poplar Bluff address, but I'm actually within 3 minutes from the lake. I live 3 miles south of the dam.
Okay. Are you from? Did you grow up in that area, or you?
Well, I've been familiar with it all my life, but I grew up down in the Boot Hill, down around Hayti, Wardell area. We were farmers down there years ago when I was a kid.
Okay. So you'd consider Wapello as your home lake, basically?
Yes, sir. Sure do.
Okay. How has, something I was wondering, and I've fished with Doug Cheatham a couple times, and I don't think I've ever asked him, has Wapello ever had any kind of grass in it?
Yes, it did years ago. Had a lot of duckweed, some native grasses. They even planted what we call the millet field in millet for ducks, and lily pads. It had a lot of natural cover, willow trees. High water took that out. When you can't get the water back down to where it's normal level for it to strive. Well, it finally got the best of it.
Yeah, that's kind of like Kentucky Lake. Well, just about any lake that has high flow, it's hard for aquatic vegetation to take hold and stay there, and that's really it really makes a big difference on a fishery. If you've got grass, I think it just makes it that much better. It just gives the fry and places to hide and survive. And I live right across from my father-in-law, and he's got a little farm pond out here. It's about 3/4 acre farm pond, but he always wants it to look pristine, mowed all the way down to the water, no weeds going out there, no, like if a tree limb falls in the lake, he's dragging it out the next day. And I'm like, man, you got to let some of that grow, because it helps, it helps the biology of the lake out. And he's got this Missouri pondweed that's growing out in it. It's been growing out, and it's been driving him nuts. And he's talking about how to kill it, how to spray it. And I was down there last week, and there were all these little minnows, just these fathead minnows. We throw fathead minnows in there, but they don't last long because they can't hide. And the fish just eat them up. There were thousands of little baby minnows swimming around in that pondweed, and it made me excited. It made me happy, because I'm like, that's great. They have actually got a place to hide, and they're going to reproduce. And so far, he hasn't come up with a plan to kill them other than spraying it. And he's got. So we had a windstorm that came through. Gosh, I don't know when that was. It was several months ago, but he drew like a couple of not treetops, but just decent sized limbs. I think there was 4 of them, to be exact. 4 of them blew down in there. Well, I've got a little deal set up where I got one of the mushroom style boat anchors, and I got a really long rope, and I can get on the pond bank, and I can throw it out over those tree limbs, let it sink, and then I can drag them up out of the lake. Well, I was able to get to 2 of them, and then there were 2 more that were just without reach. And, I could have probably tied an extra 20 feet of rope on there and got to them maybe. But, I just told them, well, they're just too far out there. I can't really get them because I'm thinking that's brush. And we want a little bit of brush in the pond. So
Sure.
far we've got Missouri pondweed that's helping out. And then we got two tree limbs that are laying there. But yeah, I don't know. We got a little sideways there, but yeah, that, thing about Wapello is, it's got plenty of cover in the water most of the time, especially if the water level gets up just a little bit, you get back in those creeks, and then and when it gets up too high, it's like almost impossible to figure out where the heck the fish are at because it's a jungle out there.
Well, it just spreads out so much, doesn't it? I mean, there's not a lot of room for it to go anywhere, or it's got a lot of room to go places.
Yeah, it almost doubles in size with a 5-foot rise. It's about an 8,400 acre lake, and 5 foot of extra water. It's twice the lake that you had with all new cover in it. We call it elbow brush. It's all around the shore, some good willow trees, and then it gets up into hardwoods. So they get scarce. They get hard to find. They really do.
Yeah, there's kind of like a sweet spot where there's a little bit of water in the brush and the cover, but it keeps them kind of close towards the creek channel. I would think. I know it's like that in most places.
Yeah, 2-foot rise, you can find the fish pretty easy. Even a 3-foot rise, you can locate them and find them in the back of the creeks. The fish will go to it. It draws them like a magnet. They don't have that overhanging structure in the lake much except for a few treetops. So bass love something over their heads. They get in under it, get the shade, and they can feed out from under it. One of my uncles told me one time, explaining to me how fish shade their eyes and how they hunt for prey. And it's kind of like sitting in your house with the lights off and you got daylight outside. You can see extremely well, but nobody can see in. And that's kind of the way bass do. They hide those eyes and get under the structure, and that's the way they feed.
Yeah.
Anything to mask them and get them hidden, that's just perfect for an ambush predator. That goes for anything that's top of the food chain, right?
That's right.
I mean, there's not a lot of alligators that sit out in the middle of open and feed. They gotta hide somewhere.
That's right. They sure do.
Watching a lot of those wildlife videos. They come up on my Facebook feed, and man, nature can be a pretty cruel place. I was watching. You're talking about alligators, and I was watching one where there was a cheetah down there just drinking some water, and all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, this huge alligator comes up, grabs it, and pulls it down. And it's I guess it was two brothers. They were related, the cheetahs. This is one of those wildlife programs where they got the commentator, and he's got a real nice low pretty voice and stuff, and he's kind of he's commentating over what happened. And it was a pair of cheetahs down there, and then the one got pulled in the water by the alligator, and the other one's just pacing back and forth, waiting for his brother or sister or whatever to come back up, and there was nothing. It was over. Yeah, it's a wild world. We forget about that sometimes. So how'd you get into fishing?
Well, I bought a boat, my first boat, in 1983. I bought a little 16-foot boat with an electric horse, 20 horse Mercury. And I started crappie fishing this lake. And they had some crappie tournaments locally, and I got in some, and I won some, and kind of got my toe in the water, so to speak. And I just always was fascinated with the Bassmaster Trail. I thought that was the neatest thing I'd ever seen. And I just wanted to do it so bad, and I just kept going and going and going. Finally entered my first bass tournament, I think, in about 1989, and just try to learn how to catch them, learn the spots, and here on the lake. And it just got into my blood. It's about all I do anymore. I don't hunt much. I will go with my son some, but fishing is my passion. And living here on the lake, I fish almost every day. I don't miss very many days that I'm not on the water at least an hour or two. And since I retired, I just told a guy the other day, every day there's 6 Saturdays and 1 Sunday in every week. So that's the way I look at life and enjoy Mother Nature and God's creation. And I took off with it. And of course, once you win a little money, that helps a little bit. I know the wife was kind of after me a little bit in the early years and about how much money I was spending. And in 1992, partner and I, we both worked together at the same plant, and we had the Wapello bass circuit up here, and we had fished in the circuits all year. And right at the end of the season in 92, we won a little money. And then they had the Classic in September, and good Lord willing, we won it. And that just set the pace for everything else to come. And God just led me in every place I've been, fellas, and took control of my life and led me to be able to enjoy it and learn and just have a great time. Meet some of the most fascinating people in the world is in the bass fishing and in the fishing world. I mean, I've got to fish with Kevin Van Dam. I've been in the boat with him. We fished Table Rock at a Bassmasters, and I think the year 2000. And so met a lot of people.
That's awesome, man. So those early tournaments, you mentioned, you started out fishing for crappie and then you started getting into bass tournaments. How were those ran compared to nowadays? And then how about the participation? And then the level, the skill set and the level of anglers back then versus now. What are some of the similarities and maybe some of the differences from those tournaments?
Well, there wasn't many thrown back. I know the crappie tournaments when I started, we were allowed, of course, 30 apiece, and we'd catch those and weigh in I think we weighed in 30 at that time, and we'd weigh in the 30 biggest fish we had. And then the bass, when we started, and I think in 92 or 91, Wappapello Bass Circuit had a limit of 12, anything over 12 inches. And so that definitely has changed now down to 5. And of course, you got to try to keep them live and you get penalized and so on and so forth. But that is the biggest change, I think, as far as the fish themselves. Now, of course, equipment has changed drastically. We stuck our pole in the water most of the time to find out how deep it was. And of course, I'm not, from the Depression days, but still yet, it was a quick way to learn how deep the water was. And then we eventually evolved into our first GPS. I was sponsored by Twin City Marine out of Festus. And I think in 1998, I had my first Triton and I had a GPS on it. And man, that was the neatest thing since sliced bread. You could actually mark your truck and find your truck to go back to. And of course, your fishing hose it well. So, and of course, now we take them all for granted. We use them for everything. We mark our places and we check our speed. We know different areas for different water levels, all kinds of things. So it's really, the technology has really evolved all the way to the live scopes.
So when you said you used to keep 12 fish in those tournaments, would you throw them? I mean, what was the transportation method on that? And how did you actually contain them? Did you just have a live well and you just threw them on a live well? And at the end of the day, you weren't too worried about keeping them alive, or what was the mindset on that back then?
Well, the mindset was, still Missouri law, we were allowed 6 apiece. So that made a limit of 12.
Okay. Gotcha.
And, and so we could still cull, and we did try to keep them live the best we could. We had live wells in our boats that worked, but, smaller live wells, if one held 5 gallon, it was a big one. But so
No.
it has, yeah. The way we keep our fish alive now is all about the timers and the cooling of the water. We've learned a lot through the years how to keep our fish alive.
Yeah. So some of those earlier tournaments, what were the weights like? Were they comparable to nowadays, or were there bigger average fish, or how does it compare?
There were some giant stringers caught. There was an old fella here that we all learned a lot from. His name was Billy Rushing. He started out on this lake basically teaching people how to flip and pitch. And he weighed in 54 pounds one time with that many fish. Yeah, 12 fish.
12 fish.
And but most of the time as our grass disappeared and the fish started becoming more pressured, there was a lot of tournaments won with 12, 13, 14 pounds with 12 fish. It's just a matter of trying to seek out the 12 fish instead of the biggest ones, So it has evolved definitely. And now, of course, if you don't have 20 pounds on this lake, you're not going to win most of the time.
Yeah, I know. I remember this was probably probably in the 2000s when fishing was kind of tough down there for a while. I fished in a bass club. I could be a little bit off on the dates, but there was a time where, it was a little bit tricky just to get, 12 pounds. It seems like there was just a little period, or maybe we were just horrible fishermen. But I remember everybody in the club going down there. It was just hard to, you had a lot of 12-inch fish in a lake, it seemed like. And now it seems like it's, like you said, it takes 20 pounds or more to win.
Monty, back when the LMB virus hit this lake hard. And this is something I've kind of explained, I think, to my fishing partner. And I may be wrong, but I really don't think I am on this because, like I say, I'm on the water most every day. But in 1995, it hit. And then Twin City Marine put on a tournament down here, appreciation tournament. And of course, they wanted me in it because they sponsored me, and so which I enjoy fishing, so away I went. But I won that tournament with 6 pounds, 5 fish that weighed 6 pounds or something. Yeah, so that's how bad
I'm thinking about. That's the time I'm thinking about in the mid 90s, I guess.
And really, what I think happened, it took the shallow fish out. This lake is notorious for shallow fish, and then of course your deeper fish survived, and the genetics is still here today. We catch fish really shallow on this lake lots of times, but there's more deep fish caught now than probably there ever has been in the last 8 or 10 years. Could be a credit to the electronics, and fishermen are much better. Hey, these kids, they come up through the high school and college ranks, and they have all the information, and these kids are good. You got to be on your toes to outdo them, and hats off to them. I love it. I think it's great for the sport.
Yeah, it's changed a lot. I noticed that here locally, probably like 5 years ago, I used to fish the Wednesday nighters. I haven't really been able to fish them for the last 3 years because of job, but that last couple of years there, or even not just the Wednesday nighters, just some of the Saturday tournaments, you started seeing, there was a period where pretty much everybody knew each other, and every once in a while, a new team would show up, or a couple new teams would kind of show up. But for the most part, everybody kind of knew everybody. And then there started to be some younger faces, some like 20-year-olds showing up, and they started.
You remember when I was the young guy, like.
Yeah, but you start seeing.
I was the kid at 14, 15 that was fishing tournaments. I was the only one out there. It was a bunch of old heads.
Yeah, you were how old were you in the Bass Club, the 99 Club? 16, 17?
I was 16. Yeah,
that's what I thought. Yeah. I remember that.
I got a late start. I did get into bass fishing until I was in my late 30s. I just didn't have the time raising the family and working, and but as it progressed, I got a lot of years in now. It went by fast, I can tell you guys.
Yeah. So you started, so you're fishing tournaments around Wapello and stuff in the region, and then sometime you decided you wanted to jump into the Bassmaster Opens and kind of expand. How did that all come about?
Well, we back then you sent in a deposit, and they filled their field. It was usually around 300 fishermen. There wasn't any when I first started. All there was the Bassmaster. There wasn't the 150s, 100s. There wasn't any of that. Matter of fact, Mega Bass even came in later than that. But in 1995, we paid the deposits, and we got drawed for a tournament in Oklahoma on Grand. And what happens is a lot of guys would get in, and they didn't do very well. Well, they would pull out and wouldn't fish all of them. So Bass wanted to fill their quota with bass fishermen, so they would start calling down the list. So I got a call in 1995 in April, and to Grand Lake I went. I've never even seen the place. And again, GPS wasn't something that you could just pull up and set your destination to take you there. So we had our road maps, and I'd highlight them and follow the highlights to the boat ramps and so on and so forth. And we got there, and I was in awe. All the people that I had seen on TV was there: Roland Martin, Jimmy Houston, Larry Nixon, Gary Klein. I mean, you just go down the list; they were all there. And hey, I was so busy paying attention to those guys, it was hard for me to focus on what I was doing. But hey, believe it or not, I had a tremendous tournament. I was in the top 10 after the first 2 days, and I ended up in 11th place out of 300 anglers in my first Bassmasters.
Wow.
And yeah, that gave me confidence, a tremendous amount of confidence. And the ability for me, and I just had an ability to find them. I didn't have the lure knowledge that those guys had. I didn't know the mood change of those fish like those guys did. But here on Wappapello, and Monty, it's seek and find, and every 30 minutes it changes. Mm-hmm. So it taught me to just keep hammering, and when you get on something, make the most of it. And even today, my partner, if he was here with me, Scott Miller, he fishes these local tournaments with me. He knows if I get 2 bites that I'm on them. And we've been to St. Clair, we've been to Minnesota, we've been all over the place. And it's just an ability that God's given me that if I can get 2 bites, I can put things together. And that's how I ended up doing as well as I did in Oklahoma. So it was a great deal.
How did you practice going into that tournament on a lake that you didn't know? And you're, like you said, some of the best, the best out there doing it at that time were in that same tournament you are. And that they got outside sources. When you're connected like that, you're getting information fed to you. I mean, that's been a constant battle up until this day. They keep adding new rules to try to cut down on that. But back then it was kind of like the Wild West, man. Whatever you could gather, you could just gather and go with it.
Right.
So you're up against the wall right off the bat. How did you handle that mentally? And then what was your approach on, figuring out a new body of water that you hadn't been on before?
Well, Monty, I fished this lake enough to know that the off-colored water, which you've been here and you know what it's like, I got on Grand and I looked for it. Mm-hmm. And being in April, we know now that that's the warmest water. It's first place the fish are going to pull up to. And so I started looking for that. And I found it down in Duck Creek. And I'm trying to remember the other name of the other creek now, but that's where I found that type of water. And one of my buddies had just won a tournament here on Wappapello. And you're going to laugh when I tell you what this lure was. It was a floating rattle trap. Oh, and yeah. Yeah, I went through Springfield on my way to Oklahoma, stopped at the Bass Pro and purchased me some. and because I didn't have any here when this fella won the tournament. And when I got down there and found those fish, they were wanting to bed. They were moving in shallow water, and they were cruising, and they were wanting to bed. And I sat in there and watched Stacy King, Charlie Campbell, Gary Klein, and I think even maybe Houston was in there. Come in there where I was throwing spinner baits. Yep, there you go. Yeah, and those fish wouldn't hit those spinner baits. And when I picked up that floating trap, and I just the luck of the draw, or the good Lord led me there, if it's really wants the truth, and started throwing that floating trap and started getting some bites. And the first day I went down there and sacked up 16 pounds. Because back then you only drew the boat for 4 hours. You had to split your time with your buddy's fish, and you flipped a coin to see whose boat you took. And I won the first day, so I got to go down and spend the first 4 hours, and I come out of there with about 16 or 17 pounds the first day.
Huh.
So that's basically how I did it. I just took with what knowledge I had from this lake here. And one more thing that I did, we were experimenting with suspended jerk baits. You're gonna laugh when I tell you this story, but there wasn't any such thing as a spinning jerk bait. So we took bell sinkers. You know, it's got the little twisted ring on top, and you know, we use them for drop shots. And we would carve the lead off and place them with our treble hooks on the front and the middle of those jerk baits. And we'd trim that lead off and put them in a sink of water, and we'd push them down in the water. And when they would hold their buoyancy and not rise, or rise very slowly, then we knew we had them. And that was the first suspended jerk bait that we made them. Me and one of the boys I room with, Jay Halsey, we fixed them up. And I caught some big fish on a suspended jerk bait in some clear water down there. So a couple things got me there, but that's just, like I said, I don't know how I came up with that, but I did.
So
were those rogues?
That were rogues, yep. The old Smithwick rogue, yep. Okay. The little shallow bill rogue, yep.
When you found Deer Creek in the warmer water, was there any knowledge that you gained on the way down? Did you make any phone calls, or was that just by sheer chance?
That was just strictly burning gas, brother. I burnt the gas and went up the creeks and looked for the dirty water. I even ran up all the way up the river to a place called Sycamore Creek. And it got muddy on me. We had some rains, and it washed out. So I had to spend my time down on the lower end of the lake. But that's what I look for.
Paper map at that point, correct?
Correct.
Yep.
Paper maps. No, I didn't. There wasn't a GPS on the boat. Yep. No maps at all.
How lost would people be today with that?
Well, yeah, it'd be. Yeah, well, there'd be a lot of lower units tore off. I could promise you that. So, you know, we all know what depth we're running in, and we are with our maps. We know where the shallow water is. So,
but them stumps decide to move out there on Wapello.
They'll do that all right. They will do that all right. I've damaged that. They nicknamed this lake Wappaprop.
Wappaprop, yeah.
Yeah.
No doubt.
So there's a reason for that, isn't there?
It's claimed many prop for sure.
There's a few stumps that's got some blades still stuck in them.
I think I've seen pictures. I've seen pictures of it before.
Yeah, I bet Doug Cheatham probably knows where one's at.
Yeah, he might have showed me one.
Yeah.
You know, and Gabe can attest this. When we fished down there with Doug, I mean, not that it's reckless. It's just crazy where you guys run at. Like, it's not,
when you shoot the gaps,
for
guys
that fish big lakes,
yeah,
that's crazy. But it's like, why don't you just go over there? It looks wide open. We'll know it's a foot of water over there with 40 stumps on it. But you're gonna run right next to this big, nasty looking laydown that's right in the middle of the river. It's like, holy cow.
Well, you know what? We get to look at this pool at drawdown. I mean, this lake at drawdown, 5 feet lower. So we pretty well know what flat has what. That's the advantage of being here. And that makes a tremendous difference. I got a funny story to tell you about that. I had found some fish in one of the creeks, Lost Creek. It's been, I'm going to say this is probably 98, 99. And we had a tournament out of Redmond, which is at the dam. And I was boat 22. And I knew some other fellas was going to either outrun me to my fish, or the boat number was going to, crucify me on that point. So I had the little GPS, like I said, is my first one. And I marked me a trail across the flat where all the duck blinds set. And I just idled across there, had my depth finders on, and seen a few stumps here and there, and they were underwater 2 or 3 foot. And there's a little drain that cuts back into the river down on that, what we call Allison Point. And if you don't know where you're going to walk out. You won't go through there with a boat. And I made my way down. And so the tournament took off, and I was boat 22, and I cut that flat, and everybody else was having to run the river channel. And when I got to Allison Point, I was boat number 1. So it can be done. You just better know where you're at. That's all I can say.
You got to do your homework. You did your homework. You put in the time, and you showed up boat number 1.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. My partner, I said, "Hang on, buddy. If we hit anything, it'll be sand. We're not gonna hit anything. It'll hurt us." So we took off.
That reminds me, JB, that story that Dion Hibden told us on here a while back.
Running through the trees.
Yeah, him and Guido were fishing on Truman Lake.
Oh man,
it was the same deal where the river channel wound around, and there was a flat with stumps on it. Well, somehow he knew that there was a really old logging road that went through. At one time it was just woods, and there was a logging road that went through there. Well, he knew where it was.
Yep.
So, he's thinking he's cool. He's like, "Watch this, Dad. We're gonna run through here, and when we come out on the other side, everybody's gonna be behind us." Well, they trimmed it up, took off. They're running like 60 miles an hour across this flat in 3 foot of water. Everybody else is going around. They're cutting right through the middle of them. And they hit there was a little limb or something, and it bow hooked the boat, and they end up losing it, spun around and landed right up against this giant, huge sycamore tree. And once they gained their composure and everything kind of settled down, they thought that they had, the trolling motor blew up on the boat, and it had some damage to it, but they were alive.
Yeah.
They thought it was over with. The next thing they heard was a really loud cracking noise. And that tree, they're sitting up against the side of it, and that tree just started falling. And some other stuff happened, but similar story where they knew a shortcut, except they didn't make it to the other side, and you did. So different ending to the story, but similar start.
I bet there's a lot more shortcut stories that end like that one than the one that Randy just told.
Yeah.
Well, even I've run up on the ground as well as I know the lake. I've tested my equipment a little too much sometimes, and I've almost everyone down here, their skag shines. It's don't have the original paint on it, I promise you. It's just the way this old lake is.
That means you ain't fishing. You're fishing too deep if you still got paint on it.
Yeah. That's true. Anymore, it is. Yes. This lake is a hardwood, guys. It's almost like you hear the old saying, "Yesterday was history, tomorrow's a mystery, and today's a gift." That's the way you look at this lake. It changes. You can be on them, and man, you just all keyed up, and wind switch directions, or any little change, and you go and it's just dry. There's no fish there, and that makes it hard. But it also makes you a better angler because it keeps you versatile. It keeps you thinking, and you're not thinking about something else when you know you need to find fish on this lake. You got your mind on your business, and it makes you work. It really does. And I think and I fish with these guys. We've been to Kentucky Lake Classics. We've been to Guntersville Classics. We've been all over the place fishing other waters. And almost all of these tournaments that I'm talking about, there's at least 3 to a half a dozen of these Wapello guys in the top 10. They know how to fish.
What makes Wapello still kick out 20 plus and upwards of 30-pound bags consistently year after year?
The shad population. It's tremendous. You come down here right now, it's fixing to start into the fall. Every pocket you go into is absolutely, you can walk on them. It's a fertile lake. It used to have good farmland in the bottom, and it's just produces, the food chain is there. The biggest problem we have here at Wapello, and I think conservation is going to have to look into it, is we're getting overpopulated with carp. And I don't mean the carp like Kentucky Lake. I just mean the old rough fish. You take the live scopes and you look and you say, man, there's a school of bass, and every one of them are carp. And what it's doing is changing the way we have to fish and the places we have to fish on this lake. So I'm hoping in the next few years, or actually, I wouldn't care if they start tomorrow, working on this carp population. But again, I'm gonna say the genetics of these bass that we have here, they love to be in. They don't mind current. They feed in current, and with the lake, it gets pulled. Like this year, they didn't get the lake down to July. So they pull water almost all year, and they get accustomed to that, and they feed with that, and use what structures in the lake for their advantage, and man, they just grow. It's just I'll give you, for instance, there's hundreds of crappie fishermen here every spring, fall. I mean, they're here, and this lake just keeps putting them out. Actually, they've been getting bigger the last few years, and that's due to the shad population.
What do you think about the spawn? Like, has Wapello had successful spawns the last few years with the high water? How does that affect the spawn?
It helps it, Monty. The fish can get back and get around structures such as the elbow brush, and when the fry helps, they have structure they can get around to keep them getting eaten by predators, and it helps a lot. Pressure on this lake is pretty tremendous, really, for the acreage it has. But as far as repopulating, right now we have a real good grade of fish between 2 and 3 pounds. I mean, it's pretty easy to weigh in 12 pounds around here with 5 fish, and there was a time when that was hard to do. And then the big fish, 5-pounder and up, you don't get too many over 7 on this lake. There'll be occasionally a 7 caught, but the 5-pounders just keep showing up. And so, most of them, I give you, for instance, in 2023, I won the Classic down here on the lower end on the river channel. And in 2024, I won it up the river where you and Doug fish a lot at. So that just shows you the fish population is all over the lake.
Yeah, right. Well, that's good to hear.
Are they still pulling current right now?
Say it again.
Are they still pulling current right now?
No, sir. They've had the lake down for probably a month and a half, 2 months now.
Is it zero current, or is it just trickling out?
It's trickling out. I think they're letting out 150, which is, you can jump across it. Yeah, you can jump across it. Yeah, it wouldn't have that much current at all, but we got some good springs in the lake that put out quite a bit of water.
Yeah. Well, that's like I was getting ready to say. That's good to know that even with the high water, that the fish are able to spawn. Because I know some river systems, when they mess with the water, not Mother Nature's the one messing with the water, but some flood control systems, let's say like the Tennessee River stuff, they'll raise the water and then fish spawn, and then they drop the bottom out of it, and then you have a year of bad spawns. But it seems like these natural river fish, they know what to do. They've been doing it for a while. They got to figure it out.
A lot of these fish, Monty, on this lake, as they pull, like I said, water to July, those fish hold off and don't spawn until July. We've caught them and weighed them in tournaments with bloody tails in July. So they know what they have to do. The biggest problem with the water flow is the shad spawn. That's what it messes with probably more than actually the spawn of the fish itself. I know here a couple years ago, we had a late flood. It was in like May, and the lake jumped up quite a few feet. Matter of fact, we had several acres of lily pads starting in a few of the backwaters, and it got high and stayed high long enough that it killed all of those lily pads out because they were blooming. Yeah, high water gets over them when they bloom, it'll kill them. And we lost a lot of shad. We lost our shad spawn. But fortunately, there's enough, here and there to reproduce. But it had a devastating effect on, especially the crappie. Our black crappie runs small anyway, and without any small shad, they had a hard time.
Back to the invitationals. You said that it was a draw format, basically, where each boater had the option, or each angler had the option to, fish out of the front or fish their fish for 4 hours and 4 hours. How did that work as far as, people getting along? Were there fights? Were there disagreements? Or did everybody say, okay, yeah, let's just flip a coin and that's what it is?
They're all bass fishermen, bud. They all got along
We all got along. Yeah, kumbaya.
Well, you know what? I had good luck. I could have never made it to the Bassmaster Classic if I hadn't had good partners. But how it worked was you teamed up with another person from a different state. You couldn't fish with someone from the same state. Oh, so okay. You knew, every day for 3 days, you drew a person from a different state. And Bass would always, fix that where it happened. And just in case you had an odd number or whatever, they would have what they call an observer to put in the boat. But he still fished. And but as far as the courtesy problem, there was some issues. I'm not going to say there wasn't, but for most part, the gentleman factor came in. And I give you, for instance, in '99, I won the Missouri Invitational. And the first day, I drew a guy from Tennessee. And he wanted to take his boat, and I lost the toss. So we went to him, his fish. And at about 10:30, he got me close to a dock. And Lake of the Ozarks, Monty.
Yeah.
I put about a 3.5 pounds spotted bass in the boat. And I just looked at him and told him, hey, you want to catch some fish? We'll go catch some fish. Yeah, we was on Lake of the Ozarks. Okay. Yeah. And then the next day, I had a good sack that day. And the next day, I drew a fella. He was a red fisherman from Louisiana. Captain, I can't remember his first name. Names are hard for me to come by these days. But he told me, hey, buddy, you're in a position to win this tournament. You go. And so I took my boat and away I went. And the last day was the same way. And so that's that's what I'm saying. The courtesy part came in. There wasn't much jealousy going on. Everybody knew if it was your day, it was your day. And then you had the guys who tried to make a living doing that, and people really were courteous to them, and they knew they had the sponsors, and they needed to fish in their boats. And so, things worked out for the most part. I'm going to say 80% of the time things worked out for everyone.
Okay. Yeah. That's, and that's most of the time that's life. You always hear, the squeaky wheel gets the oil. You always hear about the drama, but, in general, most of the time things go pretty smoothly, but for some reason we seem to forget that. And we hold on to, that drama stuff, just not necessarily us, but as a whole, the human race. We always remember that crazy story that happened where 2 people got in a fist fight in the middle of the boat. One guy got thrown out of the water and, got chopped up with a trolling motor blade. That's what we remember. So we automatically think that it was like that all the time, or maybe we just want to think like that because it's more interesting. But it's good. I
never witnessed that. Yeah, I never witnessed that. I didn't see that. I've heard some arguments over, who's going to take their boat, and Bass just settled it. They flipped a coin and you called it, and then that's the way it ended, and that was it.
That's good.
Back in the day, Dewey Kendrick, he didn't put up with much. Now I'm telling you right now, he'd grin at you and say, "You're not fishing tomorrow." So everybody, he taught people pretty darn quick how you need to act around in the Bassmaster.
Well, you got to have a tournament director like that. You got to have somebody that's
Yep.
stern, fair, equal, and he lays down the law, and there's no, it's black and white. That gray stuff's what kind of gets you in trouble. That good old boy mentality.
Yep.
Yeah,
Sure does.
So, talk about qualifying for the Bassmaster Classic, and then how that went.
Okay. In '99, of course, I had been fishing with Mr. Stan Tucker and some of the other guys up at Twin City Marine. I was sponsored through Triton and Stan and with Twin City Marine. And so 3 or 4 guys decided that they wanted to try the Bassmasters. And Stan called me up and he said, "Hey, Rand, you've been in it. You tried it and you know the ropes. Would you mind getting in with us?" So I gave it a thought and I said, "Sure. I'll try that." I did it in '95 and '96 prior, and my son was a junior and senior, set in '97 and graduated in '98. So I stayed home and watched him play basketball his junior and senior year. So I didn't go away from home much. And so we got back on the trail in '99, and that fall I had found some fish, and this is kind of ironic. Not very many tournaments are won in the Niagara arm of Lake of the Ozarks. You know that as well as anybody, Monty. But I got up there and found a little off-colored water, and got the spinnerbait going and a tube going, and won that tournament. And then our next tournament was in Texas at Sam Rayburn, and I missed the money. I was the first man out of the money, and I broke off a couple fish. I'd gotten some line that I had tried, and it didn't work out for me. So I got me a new line sponsor, and away I went after that. But you know how those things go.
You gotta learn hard way.
Yeah, and then and still I was in they take the top 5, and it's a point system to the Classic. And so the next tournament was on Table Rock, and I won the boat toss and went up the first day, caught a good limit of fish up around Camel's Point. And then the next day I drew Kevin Van Dam, and we talked about it. And of course, he wants to take his boat, and who wouldn't go with Kevin?
So was he in his prime or coming up in his prime? Was he known at that time? Was he Kevin?
Oh yeah. Yeah. This is the year 2000. Yes, sir.
Okay, gotcha. Yep.
Yeah. And so Kevin and I took off, and he was totally opposite direction from my fish. He was, I'm going to say it's probably 45, 55-minute run between our fish. And we caught 2 or 3, and we both agreed that as it warmed up, we felt the bite would get better. And so I opted not to run him to my fish. I said, let's just keep fishing. We had 2 or 3 apiece, and we needed our 5 fish limit. But that day I caught 4 and he caught 5. And that's all he caught. He had caught 5 keepers. So, and he apologized to me. He said, "Randy, you got a chance to make the Classic, and I apologize to you. I hope I didn't mess you up." And but it is what it is. And the next day I ran back up there and had a limit at 9:15 on my fish. So I ended up placing pretty good at Table Rock. And when I left there, I was in the point standing. I was 5th. And then we had a Red River tournament in May down at Shreveport, Louisiana. And I got down there, and the fish were garden fry. They had some of them at spawn, some of them were trying to spawn, and then they were on different structures, and they were garden fry. And if you know much about me, I got a spinnerbait somewhere on a rod, I promise you. So I keyed in on throwing the spinnerbait, and I could see the fry jumping, so I knew Mama was around somewhere, and I just keep hammering, and I hammered out enough to get me 19th place on the Red River. And that got me, I think I ended up 4th place in the Central Division of the year 2000. That qualified me for the Classic in Chicago. So I got to tell this, it's I get a little emotional sometimes, but in 1994, I had a sponsor here locally, and he asked me to do a boat show with him at Greensboro, North Carolina. And Herschel won that. The kid, remember? He blew the little whistle. Okay. Well, my daughter was a senior that year, and we took the whole family as a vacation to the Classic. And she sat by me, and I leaned over and told her, I said, sis, you're going to watch your daddy make that circle one of these days. And in the year 2000, I flew her home from California, and she watched me. So that's a story of all time right there, as far as I'm concerned.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. That's, you had a dream, and
I wanted it, fellas.
Back and made it happen, you know?
Yeah, I wanted it. And you know, God put you in places, and he put me in that. In 99, I had no really urge to fish bass again. I wanted to, but I didn't think I could have the time, and I didn't have anybody to go with. You need people around you, you know, to travel with, and so on and so forth. And as luck would have it, while Stan and those guys wanted to go, and we just had a great time. And hey, I just had a run. You know, we have runs in our life, and I had that run.
Mm-hmm.
So
when you was fishing with Kevin, or when you fished with somebody in general, what was the etiquette as far as the person that wasn't running the boat? Were you on the back deck the whole time, or did sometimes were you able to sit up on the front or stand up on the front deck with the person?
You know, that was an invitation that each guy running the boat for those 4 hours would give you. If you were in the flippers, you know, you flipping stuff. Why, you know, a lot of the guys didn't care if you stood right behind them, shoulder to shoulder, you know. And so that just depended on, you know, the courtesy of the fellow who was running the boat. Kevin was very cordial. He did try to long cast me a few times, but hey, I had those G Loomis rods, and I whooped it right out there with him. We was throwing, of course, wiggle warts and cranking as fast as we could, and no spots, and even a few smallmouths were hitting them. And we needed wind, and they had forecasted this wind, and it didn't happen. And that was our biggest fall down that day.
Mm-hmm.
So just out of curiosity, did he know before you guys made a decision where you were headed to fish? Yes,
we talked it over.
And
we sure did.
You don't think he did that on purpose, running the opposite way from your fish?
No, I do not. Kevin fished there all 3 days. He didn't place in the money in that tournament. Okay. And he fished there all 3 days. Yeah. Gotcha. And he gave me the most humblest apology for taking me down there, and, you know, and making it hard on me to catch back up. Because if I'd have caught the fish that I needed, like 5 fish, and I might have had a chance to win that tournament as well.
It wasn't shared weight, right? You caught your fish, and he caught his fish.
Right. Yeah. We had separate live wells, and we put each fish, you know, people's fish in each hole. But I just didn't. Matter of fact, I was 6 pounds off the lead, guys. So you know what? A couple good fish would do for you. Yeah, mm-hmm. I had a chance to win that one, but when you go with Kevin and you get 2 bites pretty quick, and they're both good keepers, you know, you're not going to say, "Hey, man, I'm ready to go with my fish," you know. Yeah. So, like I say, we needed wind, and we just didn't get it that day, and it didn't work out for us.
Well, and you're burning your time at that point by running. So
sure, yeah, sure. And it was done a lot. I mean, there was lots of people would you know, be a long way from each other's fish, and they just burn their time and go to them. That's all they knew and all they had, so they had to try it. That's just part of it. I mean, even locks got people. You know, I've been on in a lot of tournaments, and the locks would get you. Mm-hmm. So you just had to plan out your day. Tommy Martin, he had the Arkansas Invitational one when I was down there in '96. And the lock got him down there, and he lost his weight, or he'd have won that tournament.
That's still happening today.
Oh yeah.
That's a chance you take.
Yep. It's a risk. So you qualified for the Classic, and then you're heading to a body of water I'm assuming you didn't have any experience on.
Man, Lake Michigan was a whole nother world from where I was at. I grew up on the Mississippi. I grew up on the Mississippi River. I had no idea there was a body of water that big and that rough. We got to Chicago. We got us a practice time in June. they let us go up and practice for a week, and our tournament was in July. And I got up there, and I knew there was some offshore shoals, rocky shoals, that would hold those smallmouths. I'd done a little bit of investigating and heard of where some of the tournaments had been won around. And I didn't know how I was going to find them. So I just put a little bit of ingenuity together, and my brother had went with me. I had him with me, and we got on the south side of Chicago, and I looked and seen a big hospital, about a 30-story hospital. So next time I was there, I just went up in that hospital, and where I could see Lake Michigan, and I marked those shows on a paper map.
Nice. That's smart. Poor man's helicopter.
And well, it didn't work out for me, and I'm fixing to tell you why. The week of the tournament, we got northeastern winds on Lake Michigan. So that hits all of the Chicago shore. And I mean, it blew. And they had to shut down Lakeshore Drive. Water was coming plumb over in the road.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And we were in those Rangers, you know, trying to get to and fro. And I mean, it was a chore to get your boat out and try to get somewhere.
18.5 foot with a 150, correct?
No, sir. In 2000, we had 225s and we had 520s.
Okay.
Yeah. And so we ended up having to fish the rivers. I went out for the first day. Shaw Grisby was on the same shoal I was on, and he had the nets that you throw out, you know, the socks. And I didn't have those, but he had them. But we caught a fish apiece, and we both took swells over our boat, and we had to go. I mean, we were fixing to go down. So Shaw and I, he said, we'll go at the same time. So if one has trouble, we'll make it. So we did, and we run to the river. So we had abandoned our plan to fish Lake Michigan itself. We had to fish Illinois River, Calumet River. Of course, there's, you know, 2 or 3 Illinois rivers. There's north and south. And so it changed the plan, changed the size of fish. And I ended up 19th. The first day was my worst day. Of course, I'm trying to get back on fish. And wife and I, we had a great time. They treated those ladies and took them on trips and tours, and my wife had a blast. She loved it. And that's the first time that I know that she really enjoyed a fishing trip. But the Classic was unbelievable. I didn't get much sleep any night. We had news conferences. We had autograph signings. We had rules and regulations to go over. We had something every night. And I'd get maybe in bed by midnight and then back up at daylight the next morning. So it was a long week as far as they tested your endurance. I can tell you that. Because, you know, the Bassmaster Classic's a PR event. You know, that's the name of the game, is the PR. But it was great. Mr. Wu Days, we had supper with him and his wife every night. He won the tournament. Nicest gentleman there ever was. And I'll tell you how rough the water was. Wu caught fish in what we call Naval Pier. There's a little lock there, and it holds the lake out of the river, or vice versa. And there's just a little cove there, and Wu found fish in there. And the water was so rough coming in that Naval Pier that he had to let his cameraman out on the bank because he was getting seasick. Huh. So it was a challenge. I mean, almost everybody was soaking wet by the time they let us go from Soldier Field, and that's where we come back to. And of course, they had breakaways there to get behind. But when we come out behind them guys, it's 6-8 foot swells on that lake all the way to where we were going. And so life jackets popped. I mean, you know, we had at that time we come out with the new canister life jackets, and they popped on everybody. I had one pop on me and nearly choked me to death because that waves were going to get you. It's just you just put your rain suit on and endured it.
Gabe, did you listen to the I think it was BTL with Shaw?
Yeah, I listened to a couple of his.
He just talked about, I think it was this tournament he was talking about, where the new life jackets came out and one of them blew up on him on his run back. I think that was he was talking about that exact thing.
Randy was there.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah. Huh. It was like I say, for an old country boy, that was quite an experience. The last day I caught a quick limit, and I had an observer who had never been there, and I told him, I said, okay, I'm gonna take you on a scenic route. So we came back through the city of Chicago in the river, come through Naval Pier where Wu won the tournament, and then back down to Soldier Field, and I couldn't tell you how many thank yous I got from that, because I knew I wasn't going to win it, and I had a limit of fish, so we just enjoyed the afternoon. We got to see Chicago. Yeah,
I've been on that. My dad used to live in Naperville, and he took me to Chicago, and we did the Naval Pier in a boat, and you lock through there, and you go that river that kind of meanders through the city.
Yeah,
you know, I've been on that before, so I kind of know what you're talking about roughly.
Yeah, there was fish in there. That wasn't the biggest ones. The big ones were the smallmouths out on those shows, man. And we knew that, but we just couldn't fish them.
Did they talk about launching from a different section of the lake? Was that even an option?
There wasn't any place to do that, except for one of the rivers, and there wasn't a place big enough to put everybody together and get them in and get them out.
Yeah. It's so big, it's not like you can just drive an hour and get out of the wind. I mean, you'd have to drive.
It's a long way
to get on one side.
Yeah.
Was there anybody that made it out there and fished those shoals?
The first day, Carl Maxfield ran north, and so did Dion. And Carl Maxfield come in with a pretty good sack. I think he was in about third place. And then Dion had about 10 pounds. And the next day, of course, the wind picked up, and they both turned around and come back. They couldn't get to the fish at all. So it changed the whole outlook of the tournament. It just changed everything. Sure did.
Yeah. I know I fished. I've never fished body water quite that big, but I've fished Mille Lacs before. And when I went up there, my buddy Ron was a guide up there for several years, and I asked him, what side of the lake, what area we're going to fish, and he would always say whichever side the wind's not blowing, because if the wind's blowing on the east side, you drive around and you put in at the other side, because it just gets so big there that you have to. You just gotta let the Mother Nature dictates where you can actually fish.
I fished Mille Lacs several times. I know exactly what you're talking about. You can drive all the way around it and get out of the wind totally.
Yeah. And there's fish all the way around it too,
Yes, sir.
Everywhere. That's a phenomenal fishery. I want to hit St. Lawrence River. There's several of those really, really phenomenal smallmouth fisheries that are right now they're as good as they've ever been, and just a matter of going up there and doing it.
We go to St. Clair, my fishing partner and I, Scott Miller. We go up every May to St. Clair, and we have a ball.
That's another one to go to.
Yeah, you can't believe we get up there and the fish have come in to make beds. You cannot believe the amount of beds that you'll see. I mean, it's not like a pocket. You'll have 40 acres to 160 acres. Maybe even more than that you can just go across and you'll see the beds everywhere, 2 or 3 foot apart. We enjoy, and there's lots of ways to catch them, but we enjoy marking those beds and marking us a little path, and then coming back with spinner baits and burning those spinner baits over them. And that's the greatest hit there ever is a smallmouth on a spinner bait. And we enjoy that. Of course, sometimes they get tougher and the wind don't blow and you have to throw Neds on them or drop shot, but that's the most fun that you can have when you can do that with a spinnerbait.
Oh, I cannot imagine.
So you're saying you go up there and you catch a few more than you do on old Wapello, huh?
Oh yeah, man. Hell yeah. It's not uncommon to catch 50, 60 smallies a piece.
They're just mad. They're just mad because it's been cold for so long.
Well, evidently, you know, you can see them on the scope, but when they're on beds, you really don't see them on live scope. So you're looking for the, you know, the water's just clear enough that you can see the beds in all from 3 foot to 8 foot.
Okay.
And then
So not super clear water.
No, it's not super clear. Matter of fact, we fish 10-pound line when we drop it in their beds. Yeah. So a lot of fun.
Phil got a question. Phil says, fishing the first time with the big names, was there any intimidation on your side?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, you know, hey, look, you pinching yourself, you know, they see if this is real or not. You know, like I never missed the Bassmaster show back in the day on Sunday evening on TNN. I mean, that was either taped or I watched it as soon as it came on. That was just what I did. And my wife will tell you that I had drawers full of VHS tapes of different places, different tournaments, stuff like that, where I could go back to them. And when you do that, well, you really start coming across how many people you really met and watched fish, and you know, as my dad would say, you learned how to act, boy. You're around those professionals. So, you know, you do that. You know, you heed to the professional world. It's just like your baseball players. You know, they have to be on guard all the time with what they say or do, and they need to always personify and be a good mentor. And those guys did. I'll have to say they were truly gentlemen. And you know, you get one occasionally that you know, he has a little temperament of someone that, as Dad says, he just didn't have the gumption. But most people, I never ran across that. Heard about it, but I never read across that. And you know, the neat thing is, at my time that I made the Classic, and I meant to say this a while ago, there was more rookies in that 46 field of fishermen than ever been before. And I'm going to give you some names, and you're going to really realize how long this has been. Edwin Evers, Todd Fairclough, Kurt Lytle, Skeet Reese. So when, you know, when I start naming rookies, Iaconelli was a rookie. And then that's the first thing that one of the MCs came in and walked around and met everyone. He said, this is the biggest field of rookies that's ever been in the Bassmaster Classic. And so I think it made the old guys really tighten up, because I don't think that ever happened again. I think they got a little more blood in their eyes in to beat you. So,
well, you know, you say that. It's funny, Randy. I was just looking at that a while ago as you guys were talking. Aaron Martins was in there.
Yeah.
Rick Clunn was in there. George Cochran, Brett Hyte, Brett Chapman, Larry Nixon, Scott Rook. Like, yeah, there's some names in there for sure.
Hammers, boy, a bunch of hammers.
Yeah. You know what, guys? It just makes you want it that much more. You know, you asked me, was I intimidated? I think it put my fire in me to say that I topped someone like that. It gave me an incentive to work harder than I ever worked. Now, guys, when I did this, I had a full-time job. I took vacations. I swapped out with people and worked their shift, and they worked mine. I did everything I could to be able to do that, and because I wanted to say that I got to do it. And I really didn't want to quit. I made the top 100 3 times, and I never got to fish it much because, well, one thing, it was so expensive for me. You know, working people, it's hard on me. But I had a passion for it, still do. When I get in this boat on Saturday and there's a WAP circuit or an angler's choice, I'm there to beat you. I'm not there to show up. I'm there to beat you, and I do it in fun. You know, I just have a passion for it, and it's just the way I am. It's the way I'm built. I just, you know, old Doug, we're all the same way. Old Doug Cheatham, he's the same way. He'll walk up to you, you know, you done good, and I walk up to him, you done good, Doug. You know, and we all have that fire. And Wapello's got the best fishermen at just about around as far as versatility and catching fish. They know how. They're going to beat you. If you're not on your game, they're going to beat you.
You made a comment there, and this comment, we hear this a lot, and this was, golly, 25 years ago, and it was expensive then, and it's expensive now. It still is expensive, especially for the working man. It's not just over the last course of the 5 or 6 years. It's became it's pushed the working man out of it. It all depends on the drive and how much you want it. Because you hear a lot of folks saying, well, if I had, well, if you wanted it, you'd go find it. That's the deal. And Randy, you're living proof of that. Like, you didn't have, but you had the want, you had the desire, and you figured out a way. You probably sacrificed a little bit of stuff here and there with family, with home life, but you made it happen because that was the goal that you had in mind. So I love hearing that, the passion that almost at all cost, right? You knew that was your dream, and you promised your little girl that she was going to see daddy go around that circle. By golly, you did.
I did, and I thank God for that, because, and she'll tell you, she knows her dad. She knows that when I want something, I'm gonna lose sleep until I get it. Mm-hmm. It's just the way I'm built, and I guess I did that. I worked at Noranda Aluminum. It was a smelter down in Southeast Missouri.
Yep.
It's the only job I really ever had. Robin and I have talked about it. We raised our children very easily. We had good benefits, good pay, and it gave me the money to get to do a few things that we like to do. Guys, I've been one of the luckiest people in the world. I've been one of the luckiest, blessed people in the world. I got another story for you. I know we may run over, but fellas, I've been to Mexico on Lake El Salto with Denny Breyer and Chad. In 2004, they invited me to make a trip, and I went with them.
Yeah, you got to go. Got to make that trip.
Yeah. And it's just things like that all through my life that, a working fella, country boy like me is not supposed to get to do. And so God intervened and gave me the chance. That's all I can say. Because I don't know any other way it happened. Yeah. Other than this, losing sleep. I lost a lot of sleep. I didn't sleep much. But
I was to my boy.
She said, Janice Miller said, he ain't lying. That this is that little girl. You can watch me.
Yeah, that's my daughter.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, there's a question here. Where's that? Oh yeah, Phil. Here's another one from Phil. Any good Ray Scott stories?
You know what? Yes, sir. Ray was a showman. Mm-hmm. He knew how to get the crowd into it. He was someone that you wanted to watch and you wanted to learn from. I worked boat show, Ray Scott. Twin City Marine would go to St. Louis, have the big boat show, and Ray had made a deal with Triton, and Ray flew in, and we had a Saturday, and I listened to his stories, and I watched him sail boats, and I'm telling you, that man could he could sell a tin can at a lumber yard. That's just the way he was. He was just built for that way, and gosh, his vision, fellas, is way beyond most anybody's that I've known. When you've been around Ray and listened to him, and the way that he looks at things and the way he personifies ways to get there, he didn't think like other people think, other businessmen think. He had a knack. Now and you can tell, I mean, you stop and think where it came from. And one thing that he told me, he said, one of the easiest things he did when he was starting bass, he'd seek out the best fisherman on whatever lake he could get his foot in the door. And then and you look back at the history, you had your Denny Bryers, the Hibdens at Lake of the Ozarks, you had your Larry Nixons in Texas and Tommy Martin in Texas. And he would have those tournaments scheduled where those guys would be there and doing their thing and to promote the sport. So he had all the angles. He had them all.
So you knew you were around somebody different when you were around him. Like,
oh yeah,
something special about him.
Yeah, he was. He personified himself, as a gentleman. And I never heard Ray in any way get any other vision in my mind from that. He was what you saw is what you got, as far as I'm concerned. And but his act to be able to deal with the public and like I say, he could sell a tin can to lumberyard. That he knew how to make it happen.
That's awesome. Hey, let's pivot here real quick. We'll just cover a couple more short topics before we let you go. But something that just came out today, and I'm gonna go ahead and share this, and I definitely want to get your opinion on it because you've seen it from all different angles. But Bassmaster just announced the rule changes to the 2026 season, and there's been a lot of people talking about, there's been rumors going around, but it just kind of got dropped out of nowhere. And I was kind of wanting to, I don't know if guys have had a chance to look this over, but basically what they're doing is they are going to flip a coin for 8 of the tournaments. There's going to be 4 with, 4 without. And then the very last tournament of the year, which I think it's hard for me to read and talk at the same time, but I think it's a smallmouth fishery. I want to say Champlain, possibly. St. Lawrence River is going to be the final stop of the season, and that's going to get its own flip. So there's going to be basically almost half the season with forward-facing sonar and half the season without forward-facing sonar. And it's going to be random flip. I mean, you may get a lake such as like the Sabine River where forward-facing sonar really hasn't been that big of a factor. Well, that may be one of the tournaments that gets the forward-facing sonar. So it's a complete crapshoot as far as which tournament gets what. But I don't know. I'm just curious about what's your thoughts. What do you think about that, Randy? A little bit maybe about the impact of forward-facing sonar, your thoughts on it, and this new rule change. Because 2 years ago, the BPT, the Bass Pro Tour, Major League Fishing's top tier, they went to, or actually it was this year, I guess it's the first time they did that, but they went to 2 periods without it and then 1 period with it, and that changed the whole dynamics of everything. And this is gonna be interesting as well. So just wanted to get both of your guys' thoughts on that.
Well, my thoughts is, forward facing has changed fishing. It's changed my fishing. I enjoy it. I love technology, especially when it comes to the fishing world. When I got out of work, I never bought another computer, but I use my cell phone. But I do love the technology that's out there, and there's no doubt about how it's changed fishing. It's changed it here on Wapello as well. These guys with 20-pound stringers, they're seeing those fish. They're figuring out how to make them bite. I've done the same thing. Here on this 8,400 acre lake, if you can't catch fish behind someone else, you're not gonna have a shot at anything. So you got to learn how to do that, and forward facing will help you do that. But as far as making it equally among fishermen, as far as being able to qualify for their classics or angler of the year or whatever, the best fisherman is going to win that with that format that they're talking about introducing. I'm a big fan of Trey McKinney. I knew of him before he ever went to the Bassmasters. He fished Lake Egypt over here in Illinois, and he won and he won and he won. And I know he's a good little stick, and I know that's what he's done all his life. When you shoot a shotgun every day, you're going to get where you don't miss. And so you can't take away from Trey the fact that he uses forward-facing technology and wins, because he can win without it. I think the kid's that good.
Trey was good before forward facing came out.
Hey, that's right. That's right.
I mean, like him, love him, hate him. There's a lot of people that don't like Trey. There's a lot of people that love Trey. But like you said, we're all from that area, this area. That boy's been fishing in a bass boat since he could walk and talk. Like he was born and bred to be a bass fisherman, and that's it.
I agree. And I think that will show up with this format as it sets, as they flip the coin, so to speak. And I think Trey will do well. Now, would he do as well if he had his live scope every day? I'm gonna say no, because I don't. I wouldn't, because it has changed fishing quite a bit. But I don't understand the negativity about catching fish. You're in a boat, you paid your money, you got a way to catch them. You can look at them and you can catch them, or whatever way. I don't see why people have a problem with that. You've learned it and you've earned it. But we have a lot of people who get outdone simply because maybe they're not up to the technology. So I would say that's where probably most of the harping is coming from. You got to realize these young kids like Trey and Father Gill and all those guys, they're high school fishermen, college fishermen, right on up the ranks. They've learned how. It's not all about live scope. They've learned how. And just like you said, Trey won before. So
hey, I think my feelings hurt by getting beat by a 6XD, and you know what I did? I went and learned how to throw a 6XD.
Yeah, there you go. You go. Yeah.
Unfortunately, well, I mean, no, it's not. It's the same. It took me years to figure out throwing deep crankbaits. I'm still learning. I think we all are, right? We're all still learning something different about those techniques, especially with forward-facing sonar. We learn even more every day. But exactly with this comment that just popped up, haters going to hate. Like, if you don't succeed at something, the easy route out is, well, it's because of insert item.
Right.
But I mean, if you don't like it, don't use it, but don't complain that you're going to get beat by it.
Yeah,
well, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'm going to relate this to a story that I heard, and I'm pretty sure it's a fact because the source I got it from. But back in the day, fellas, in Louisiana, the state of Louisiana was going to ban a plastic worm because it caught too many fish.
Huh.
So where would you be, if that happened every time?
Yeah.
And so I just believe that as far as points and the race that those guys do to win and to be AOI, I just believe that the better fisherman is going to come out. And that's what everybody's wanting, they say. Well, I know I'm a better fisherman with a live scope. And these guys around this lake will tell you that too. And matter of fact, I probably put on a half a dozen for some of my local fishermen around here. So they're getting with the program. And that's what I don't understand. If a plastic worm catches fish, you going to throw one? Sure you are.
Absolutely. So
that's my point.
They don't catch fish anymore, though. Those plastic worms, they don't work no more.
All right. Well, I'm about $20,000 ahead of you here the last couple of years on that one. Because that's what I caught them on.
Yeah,
I'm a little old school.
I get
it. No, I think you made some important points, Randy, about that. I think they're the folks that have built a foundation and they know how to find fish and they know how to pattern fish based on the seasons and the movements and stuff. They're going to catch fish with or without technology. I mean, they can, you know, there's people that can go out in a 14-foot John boat with a trolling motor, no electronics, and catch fish. There's some lakes it's more difficult. You know, you take a lake like Bull Shoals or Table Rock or Dale Hollow, some of these lakes that are deeper, clearer, and the fish do get offshore. There's a distinct advantage, or even some of these smallmouth fisheries. You know, we talked about St. Clair. That if they draw St. Clair with no live scope, if they're fishing it next year, I don't know what the schedule. I don't remember that, but that's going to change the dynamics of that fishery, and it's going to give the locals a distinct advantage. Those people that know. You mentioned Easton Fothergill, the Johnsons, Corey and Chris Johnson. You know, you take them to a smallmouth fishery that they know before this technology. They know where all the boulders are at. You know, they know all the high spots, the shoals, the sand flats, all that stuff. They're going to be at a distinct advantage over the people that have learned it and depend on the technology. But bottom line is, if you've got the core fundamental values, you're going to be able to perform without the technology because you know what to rely on, and you've caught them without it. I think one of the issues is with there's a new crop of anglers, and we talked about the high school anglers, that I think there's a lot of those kids that have learned from ground zero using forward-facing sonar as a crutch. Now, we talked about, it's been a while since we talked about that. If you come to the same point, sometimes it doesn't matter how you got there. If you learned, say somebody that learned how to find pattern and seasonal movements of fish before technology was available, they've come, you know, they've got years and years of knowledge. They've come to a point where they can find fish, okay, without technology. Then you've got a new crop of anglers who have used forward-facing sonar, and these are obsessed fishermen. They're fish heads. They're hardcore. They're putting in their time on the water. They just, when they get to the point where they've learned seasonal patterns and movements with technology, they're still at the same point. They still know where to look, why the fish are there. They just got to that point from a different way, you know. Right. So I think if that makes sense, I'm maybe not articulating the best, but both anglers are the old school angler or the more traditional style or the non-technology angler got to this point, and then the cutting edge new age fishermen got to this point. They both got to the same point, but there's just a different path to get there. They may be okay without it because they know why they're catching fish in a certain area. It's not just put the trolling motor in the water, pan around, find fish on the live scope. That's a different kind of angler. If they've put in the time and they actually are trying to break down this data, decipher this data, and why are these fish there? It's not just, hey, there's fish, let's just go catch fish. If they're thinking about why, okay, I'm catching fish on this certain type of bank during May, why are those fish there? Or, you know, in September or whatever time of year it is. I think those guys will be okay. But I think there are some, you know, fishermen that solely rely on that. But those are not the type of fishermen that are going to be fishing in the Elite Series or in the BPT. If you're at that level, you know what you're doing. It's not just on electronics. Like the electronics cut down not the learning curve. It cuts down the time that it takes to figure out what's going on on the water. It aids in your practicing. You're able to break down a body of water way faster because of that technology. But you'll still be able to catch fish without it. And that's the difference between an Elite Series angler and a Bass Club angler. Nothing against Bass Club anglers. But those guys that are at the top, they're there because they know how to catch fish, period.
Well, Trey just proved that at St. Clair. I know the area, and he had a number of fishermen around him, and Trey caught the bigger ones. He learned how to make them bite. That's one thing you can see with a live scope. You can see when they don't want to bite and when they leave the area. Okay. And Trey learned a little trick or maybe a different angle or whatever, but he learned how to catch them. Rick Clunn made one of the boldest statements that I ever seen from any of the fishermen that I was around. He wasn't a fisherman when he got in the game, but he figured out there was a science to it. And when he figured that science, he knew he could do well. And the science was patterns, seasonal patterns, different patterns for different times of the year. And Rick Clunn didn't have all that technology. He was an extraordinary fella that could out at the time what those fish were doing. And he fished with a crankbait most of the time, fellas, because he could take it and go all different depths with it. And that's basically what Rick done. He would just find the right depth and figure out where the fish were at that particular time of year, kept his notes, and away he went. And I think he's the greatest fisherman of all time. I really do, and his record proves it. And Rick, he got out of the fishing world. Of course, one thing, age does that, but I think Rick seen what was coming at him, and science changed. It went to technology versus weather patterns and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, it's just like we talked about. You put Rick Clunn at 30 years old, he's going to be on that live scope, and he's going to figure out the same scientific way to catch those fish. Yeah.
Yep.
And that's what it boils down to.
Yep.
I think the one thing that we all have missed here is we're just talking about live scope on the technology part of shortening that learning curve. But Randy, when you were growing up, and heck, even I'm the youngest one in the room here, when I was growing up, we didn't have YouTube. We didn't have live streams like this that we could go in and ask a question and get an instant answer. I mean, you had to go out and physically do it to learn seasonal patterns. And you know, bed fishing, for example, how often in Southeast Missouri and Southern Illinois do we get to bed fish?
Really?
If the water's muddy, if the water's high, you know, there's all kinds of factors that could result in 2 or 3 years that you don't get to see a fish on a bed unless you're out there every single day, day in and day out, and you catch one clear day of water. Well, heck, now you can a quick YouTube search and you can find 500 videos on how to catch a fish off of a bed. That's taken away that learning curve that everybody's kind of complaining about, is that these young kids, they don't have the
you got
the experience. Yeah, exactly. I can be on the water and figure it out right here. Like,
they've got apps, you know, they got those, like that deep dive app that you hear about. It shows the different watercolors on different parts of the lake, where you don't have to run, you know, you're at PB2, you don't have to run all the way to the end of Niangua Arm to see what kind of water stains up there. You know, you can get on, there's an app and it'll show you, you know, what areas of the lake are stained. So that cuts down 3 or 4 hours right there, you know.
Hey, I mean, this isn't back in the day. This isn't fishing related, but hunting related. I have LiDAR maps on my phone that I can see a deer trail on a depression that's, you know, 6 inches in the mud. I can see that depression where they've walked on hillsides. Like, the amount of stuff that we have at our fingertips at our disposal now, if you want it, it's there, right? Like, live scope's a big piece of it, but the rest of that, like how to flip a jig, how to throw a tube, how to run a spinnerbait in 6 inches of water and still catch them, like, those are all things that are out there now. And it was a podcast I was listening to a couple months ago, and it was at the beginning of the YouTube era, and pros basically sold secrets to get a few more clicks, to get 500 likes, to get something to push their channel just a little bit more down the the path for more sponsors or better sponsors. But that's absolutely the truth. They sold out. Pros have sold out. Local guys have sold out. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's just increased that brain power that everybody can have now. So,
well, I'm gonna. You know what? As you've been talking about that, isn't that what Ray Scott and Bassmaster Magazine did? Stop.
That was his vision.
That's where it all originated. Yes.
He didn't know that it was going to turn into the internet and all the things that it turned into, but he was an innovator, right? He saw at that time, how did you get tournament winnings? You called in, or you saw it on the newspaper.
Yeah.
And you had a little blurb about that big in the newspaper that said, Randy Jackson won at Wapello with 22 pounds, and second place was Doug Cheatham with 19 pounds or whatever it was, and that was it. He caught him on a black and blue jig.
Well, that's true, very true. When I made it to the Classic, Poplar Bluff newspaper came out here and interviewed me, and I got a little clip on KFVS local TV here. Or who would have known? Now look what we're doing right now.
Right.
We're reaching hundreds of people out here, and then bigger events while you reach more people. So yeah, it's changed drastically, but I give Ray Scott credit for that one. I mean, he figured out the best way he could at that time to market his tournaments. And hey guys, we all bought prescriptions to those Bassmaster magazines. We tried to learn all we could.
We were at dinner last night with my folks, and so I'm gonna tell one of my mom and I'm gonna tell one of my wife. So Dad still has Bass Pro catalogs from like the 70s and the 80s, and we're talking the retail catalogs, the master catalog, and both of y'all know what I'm talking about because we all got them. Well, we were at dinner last night, and Mom and Dad are cleaning up the house. So we were at dinner last night. Mom was talking about all these magazines, and my wife goes, "Well, you got a bunch of them downstairs too, and you don't ever do anything with them." I said, "Well, those are different. Those are Bassmasters magazines. Those aren't Bass Pro catalogs." I said, "I don't care about the Bass Pro catalogs, but then Bassmaster magazines from when I was a kid, I still have every single one of them, and they're all in a stack." And there's a reason why I still have them all, because I still go back every once in a while and reminisce and look at them. They've gotten thinner throughout the years, but by golly, they still have some good information in them. So,
well, the point you make, everybody has everything at the tip of their fingers, and it's instant. There's no waiting on it. We got Bassmaster Live. It's all at whenever you want to watch it. It's your free time. If you're a working fella, it's all that information is there. It's just amazing how much information do these younger guys have. It's a wonder that they're even interested in it with other things, going on. But I think a lot of that is Dad's influence, or a brother or uncle, somebody that liked to fish, got the kid involved, and they took it over. And
for a lot of them kids, if it wasn't for the technology, they wouldn't be involved. If it was just going out and watching a bobber going up and down the bank, like, they care less about that. That's boring. It's not instant gratification. It's too slow. It's too, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. It's just not.
They don't have the attention to stay focused.
The attention span isn't there for it. You put, like, that's my lure going down the screen, and that's the fish coming at my lure, and if I twitch it this way, it's real-time feedback. So,
well, if they don't see it on the phone, it didn't happen.
Right.
Exactly. That's the mentality that we have today. So, I got a 5-year-old grandson, Trey. He was able to jailbreak my phone at 5 years old. So he figured out my pattern, and away you go. And we have issues with TV. We usually holler at him. That's just the way these younger people are. And so there's no stopping it. There's no, that's what I don't understand with bass and trying to appease everyone over this live scope and stop and cutting back on the technology. There's no stopping it. I don't see how you're going to stop it. For one thing, the group is wanting it.
Yeah.
So
we're going to give away a $25 Baitworks gift card. If you want to get involved in the drawing, we'll let this run for just a few minutes. Hashtag Baitworks, all capitals, BAITWRX. Like I said, we'll let that run for a couple minutes and then we'll give it away. Yeah, you know what's cool about those old Bassmaster issues is there's some techniques that you think are real new and cutting edge, and then you can find an old magazine that's like 30 years old or something, and like a shaky head. You know, shaky head's been around for a while, but it's been around a lot longer than what most people realize. I mean, you can go way back and find a jig head worm.
It was just called something a little different.
Called something a little bit different. There's most of those techniques, people were tinkering around with that stuff like a long time ago. And then it wasn't until a company decided to market it and put the dollars behind it. And then you get some people that had success with it and they shared it on social media, and then boom, it's a new technique. Well, maybe it wasn't. Maybe it's been around.
Or back in the day, somebody won on it.
Yeah.
And that created.
I remember a tube. You mentioned Denny Brower, like the flipping tube. He made that. Well, Guido did, but the Gets It was a lot smaller of a tube. Where Denny, to me, I remember Denny Brower as the person that brought the Texas rigged flipping tube, like a big like black neon tube. He made that popular. I can't remember what derby it was, but there was a little run there for a few years where he had a lot of success on that.
He did well in the Megabucks. The Megabucks is when that really kicked off.
Okay.
There was a guy from Arkansas, Doug Garrett. He did as well. He was with the tubes. He did well there for a while. But Denny was the one that won more tournaments and got more notoriety. But both of those guys were big. I call them big tubers because that's what they threw a lot of the times.
Mm-hmm. What are some of what's a couple trends that you saw through the years that don't get talked about as much anymore? Or they're not near as popular. Is there anything that kind of comes to mind that used to be like, you had to have that in your boat to fish back in whenever, and now you don't hear too much about them anymore?
Personally, with me, it's probably buzz baits. There's a few guys still throw them here, and there's a few fish caught on them. But at one time, it was the bait most anywhere. And we've of course, there've been other baits come out, such as your whopper ploppers and some of the pencil baits. But there's not it doesn't carry weight like it used to. And it was a top-notch bait. As far as big fish and getting numbers. It happens periodically now instead of more everyday thing. Just seems like it's a short window that those fish are. And I'm speaking a lot from here, Wapello. I'm sure a lot of lakes are better than this one, but that's kind of what's happened here.
Lady, I don't know how many lakes are a lot better than Wapello, because there's not a lot of lakes that pump out 30-pound bags consistently every year.
Well, you know what? I'm actually Gail Breckenridge and Doug caught that sack, and Gail stays at my house now when he comes to fish these tournaments. So we're dear friends, and we almost all of the big sacks came in three Pacific areas. Doug and Gail caught them out of a spring here on the lake one time, and then there was a condition with the current, and actually I'm going to tell you the story. Doug and Gail threw a prop blade and was calling me for an extra prop, and they just had to idle to a spot, and Gail pulled up there and pulled out a hair jig and they caught 29 point something pound off in that spot. So that's one of those deals. When it's your day, it's your day. Now don't get me wrong. They kind of knew that area could do that, and they knew that bait could do that, but that wasn't their plan for the day. I can tell you that. But
you don't think about a hair jig on Wap. It doesn't seem like it's a big player on Wapello.
It's a short window again to use that here, but they will bite it. I've got it in my arsenal, and I've used it. But it's a short window. Gail and I both recognize, and Doug, we recognize when you can use them, and we catch them when that happens. But I'd say, we was talking about the worm a while ago. There's so many different varieties now that the regular old culprit worm, it's out the window, and it's a good bait. So I guess, my goodness, the crankbaits has been changed so much. Used to you carved it out of a piece of wood, and when you let off of it, it jumped to the top. It was so buoyant. Now you got your plastic baits and with weights and different sounds and so on and so forth. And I'm gonna say a lot of the old balsa baits are gone. I mean, nobody uses them anymore, and they will catch them fish. Yeah,
it's the durability that killed the balsa. So
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, one out of 10 ran right.
You had to work on them, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think the buzzbait. There's two key tournaments this year where the buzzbait played a big role. Probably more than that, but there was a BPT on Nickajack and Chickamauga that Jake Lawrence won on a buzzbait. He beat Jacob Willer with like 30 seconds left. It was an amazing tournament. And then I think Pat Schlopper had a win on a buzzbait. So the buzzbait's been kind of sort of, making somewhat of a comeback. And I think with these forward-facing sonar changes, you might see a little more of those traditional, power fishing techniques starting to come back instead of just, everybody shaking a minnow.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. Yeah, I always think of the lizard. I used to catch fish on a lizard, like just a 6-inch zoom lizard. And I still break it out. I fished with a guy in Kentucky Lake about 2 years ago. It's my buddy Joe that I usually end up staying with. And he catches them on a black and blue lizard in the spring, Texas rigged. And he got me kind of thinking about them again. And I break them out every once in a while. But like most lures, if you don't have a really good day on it, you might fish it for a little bit, and then it goes right back into the storage bin, But if you break one of those lures out that you haven't fished in a while, and you just totally smash them, it's going to be on the deck of your boat for quite a while. That's just kind of the way it is.
Usually that's a 2-year period for me.
Yeah. All right, we've let this go for a while. Let's go ahead and draw this. Give this Baitworks gift card away to somebody. There we go. Kedge, I don't know how you say that.
Dr. Kedge 36.
There you go. Get a hold of me on Facebook, Gabe Montgomery Fishing, or 10 Horse Monty, or Instagram 10 Horse Monty 6, and I will get you taken care of. Congratulations. Before we wrap this up, one last question. If you could fish any bait for 2 hours any time of the year, and the fish are just going to go crazy, they're just going to crush it. So you tie that bait on, you walk down to wherever, it doesn't matter. You throw it around for 2 hours, and the fish are just going to act like they've never seen it before. What bait would that be, or technique?
That'd be a spinner bait for me.
Okay.
No hesitation. I had a feeling that was coming.
Yeah, no hesitation. I've won more money on a spinner bait than any bait I've ever thrown. And then when they're not on it, they're not on it. I had a 24-pound sack. First WAP circuit we had this year was a spinnerbait.
Nice.
So when they're on it, they're on it. And again, that comes from knowing when, knowing how, and figuring things out with a couple of bites. Because it can change on you within minutes. And there's several factors that I always use. I try to look at the top of the water column and see how high fish are in the water column. And then I always like the wind. I don't like horrific wind, but I like some wind. A little ripple sometimes is all it takes. And what it does, it breaks up the silhouette of that bait, and they feel the vibration, so it's instinct to hit it. And they don't. And then by the time they realize what it is, it's too late. But and I have thrown it in all conditions. I give you, for instance, we was on a Bassmasters, and I was fishing with Stan Tucker. We were all in our group, like I mentioned earlier, and we were on Lake Ouachita down in Arkansas. And I drew a partner from Louisiana. I don't remember his first name, but his last name was, we call it Martin, but they call it Martine. So I went back into a creek, and there was some standing timber, and I was burning a 1/2 ounce spinnerbait 2 or 3 inches under the water and catching those big giant spots and largemouths that particular way, a technique. It was, I was cranking it, and they were coming up hitting it. Well, that was in earlier part of the year. Well, later that year, we were back on the Red River, and this same guy drew Stan Tucker. And Stan Tucker was throwing the same spinnerbait. It was a Stanley. At that particular time, we had Lonnie make it some. And Stan was fishing it like you would a worm. He was in standing timber with a lot of limbs on it, kind of like you vision this as being like Truman Lake.
Mm-hmm.
And he was working that spinnerbait through the timber like a worm and catching them. And the kid that was fished with him got up on the stage later that day and was talking about how he had been to school on a spinnerbait. Said he fished with me and had one 6 inches under the water as fast as you crank it. And then he fished with another guy from Missouri who fished that spinnerbait like a worm. Huh. And I think that's the reason I picked that bait, is because you can just do so much with it. You guys, you can do the same thing. Like I told you earlier, you can catch those small mouths burning it. Here, I slow roll them down on ledges a lot, brush piles. You know, you fish Lake of the Ozarks, you put a spinnerbait around a brush pile, something will happen to it.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, it's one of the most versatile lakes. But then when it gets hot and oxygen levels get lower, it's harder to catch them on it. But Stan Tucker can do it, because he proved it to me back when we fished together. We caught those fish in August. Here on Wappello, I've caught them in 2 foot of water in August on a spinnerbait. So this lake here will keep you humble. I promise you. You gotta work it every minute.
Do you mess around with your spinnerbait much? You know, as far as tinkering with the blades and stuff, or do you have just a few that you kind of stick with? I got a few that I stick with, Monty. I fish. I had a sponsor from Texas. After I won that Missouri Invitational, I did a boat show in Mesquite, Texas, and I ran into this couple who were starting to get into the tackle business, and their names were Johnson. And it was a Johnson spinnerbait they made it out of the light piano wire, and they had a vibration, and they wouldn't roll over. You could pull it as fast as you wanted. You could pull it through thick cover. They had great hooks, great skirts, and I just used them for years and years and years. And finally, they sold out to other companies, and I lost contact. But that was the best spinnerbait that I had thrown for a long time. Now, there's a lot of still good ones out there. Lonnie Stanley made us some spinnerbaits with some exceptionally big blades on them. We had a bunch made one time. Stan Tucker did, and they were a 1/2 ounce bait with 2 number 5 blades on it, one gold and one silver. And yeah, it was hard. It was hard to keep it. You could burn it pretty good, but you couldn't put a very big trailer on it. You had to, get the right cadence. But as far as boat docks and ledges, when you pull that spinnerbait and kill it, those baits, they would clang together. And when they did that, it was on. And so I think we ended up, I think Stan had to get those to get Lonnie to make them for us. It was like 144 dozen. It's what we ended up having to get. And we all dispersed them and took them, we used them for years and years.
And we've been trying to mimic that thing, and we haven't got it perfected yet. Stan especially. We got a blade that works pretty good, but it wasn't nothing like that. But
Wow.
yeah, that's and there's, I mean, there's a lot of different blade combinations you can do, a lot of different colors, but I don't change a lot. I use mostly chartreuse and white here on this lake with a gold and silver blade, and most of the time it's just the way you work it, and you trigger a fish, and then you mimic that. And this lake is notorious for that. That's why I always say, I get 2 bites, I'm going to be okay. And that's one thing I can say about this lake. If you can get that, you're on your way.
It's good stuff there. Yeah, I think you can give 10 people the exact same bait, tell them what kind of bank to look for, same conditions, and maybe only 1 or 2 of the people will catch them on that bait. A lot of it's how you work the bait, and just like we talked about the forward-facing sonar and Trey McKinney and fishing amongst that crowd, and he ended up catching them better than other people when everybody's throwing probably the same style of rotations of baits. They're just everybody fishes a bait a little bit different. It's just the way it is. It just shows.
I tell you what, if you want to learn how to fish a new bait or a bait a different way, give it to a kid and don't tell them what to do.
That's true.
That's very true.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
I spent the last couple of weeks up at trout fishing with my kids, and I just stopped telling them what to do. Like, just throw it out, throw it up current, reel it in, throw it down current, reel it in, throw it across from me, reel it in. I don't care. And I just sit back and watch them. And when you watch them and they're catching fish, it's like, oh, well, I've done it this way because that's what Dad told me to do, and that's what Grandpa told me to do. And that's what their dad and that's what their grandpa told you to do. And I don't know any other way. But when you sit there and you watch them throw it down current and reel it up, it's like, why did you catch them that way? I don't know, but it works. I'm going to try it.
I've had that issue happen with spinner baits. Wind be blowing. Most people try to throw it into the wind and pull it the same direction, and I don't do that. I don't. If the wind's blowing hard enough, it's going to foul my spinner bait, or it make my cast go into a different direction than where I was supposed to put it. I just go with the wind, and I found it did not make any difference.
Yeah.
It was all about how that blade ran more than it was which direction the wind were blowing.
Yep.
It's a heck
of a lot easier to throw a big old number 6 downwind than it is.
Yeah, you waste too much time digging your backlash out, or you're missing where you want to throw. So I just I've been on Kentucky Lake a lot of times, and wind so bad I'd have to be on my knees to stay in the boat and just pull my trolling motor up and burn that spinner bait and catch those bass, and the wind would beat to my back, because if I faced the wind, water would hit me in the face. So that's just it didn't make any difference to those fish. I couldn't tell it did.
Yeah, my daughter taught me that you can swim a drop shot and catch plenty of fish.
That's true. That's true. Kids, they'll do anything with a bait. That's for sure. I know. I got a 7-year-old grandson. He's going to be probably a chip off the old block, I'm hoping.
Yeah. It's just like you said, JB. Just sometimes you just sit back and watch, and you learn. I mean, everybody's a teacher. There's no doubt about it, one way or another. All right, man. We're gonna wrap this up. Randy, it has been a pleasure to meet you, to hang out with you. A lot of great, useful knowledge shared tonight, and it's really been a pleasure to hang out with you, man. I appreciate you taking time out of your evening and coming out of here and spending some time with us. Any closing thoughts or comments before we wrap her up?
Well, guys, I appreciate it, and you're welcome to come down here and fish with me anytime. I don't go but almost every day, except Sunday. I give Sunday to the good Lord, so I just enjoy it, and I hardly ever fish all day. I just go out there and fish 4 or 5 hours or whatever, and then come back. And pre-fishing is something hard to do. When you live on a lake, it's hard to pre-fish a lake, and because sometimes you learn more than what you need to learn, and then you try to do it all in 8 hours in a tournament, and it comes back on you. So I just I just love fishing, and I love to share it, just like I do God's word. So thank you, guys.
All right. We'll wrap it up on that. Thanks to everybody that hung out with us. We're going to try to get the ball rolling and be more consistent with these live streams. So check back in next week. Same place, same time. Everybody have a safe week, and hopefully you get out there on the water and take advantage of these nice fall-like conditions that we've got. So until next